Hello. So now that we have gotten introduced into the user interface of Rhino, we can look into how I can start my commands. Now, looking at Rhino, and we've mentioned before that Rhino is an relatively easy software to use, and it offers us a lot of flexibility in terms of user interface. This is very much evident in the 5 different ways that Rhino offers us in starting commands, regardless what that command is. The first way is by looking into the menus that you have on top. So you can find the most frequently used, or you can find all of the commands in the menus right here on top. The most frequently used commands can be found under curve, or the most used, or the commands that we use mostly are found under curve, surface, and solid. In our case, of course, now people have different ways of performing different tasks, and of course, feel free to look around these menus and find different commands. Now, the second way of starting commands, if you're not comfortable with looking through the menus up there, and you prefer a more visual approach or a more visual way of locating your commands, then of course you can look at the icons that are found in different places, either in the menu bar or in the toolbars right here, or in the main toolbar on the left-hand side of the screen. So that offers the same commands that you find in the menus, only in a visual or in a graphical format. The next way, if you don't prefer this nor that, then you can go ahead and start typing your command into the command line, just like we do with AutoCAD in some cases. You can just type the command that you want, and the command will be activated once you hit the enter button. The fourth way is the pop-up. So if you press on the scroll, if you have a scroll on your mouse, you can see that a window comes up that has some of these commands that some people like to access very quickly instead of having to go around. It's just easier to locate. Of course, these are editable and you can change them. You can edit them as you want. But again, I suggest you keep it until you actually master Rhino and you start realizing what are the icons that you want to have immediately or to have easy access to. Now, to close this pop-up that I got up, all I have to do is press on this blue or grayish blue area right here, and this X button appears, and now I can close the window. The fifth way of starting commands can be through the keyboard shortcuts. So for instance, Control-C and Control-V for copy and paste, and so on. Now, the next question is, okay, I started a command, but I don't know how to exit it or to escape it. To exit or to close the command, all you have to do is press on the escape button. Some commands require a double press on the escape button on your keyboard, and that will come with experience. Now, further, there are 4 ways of repeating commands, and that is a really nice feature that Rhino offers us, is that if I have a command that was used before and I would like to repeat it, and I don't want to look into the graphical representations or to type it again or whatever, etc., I have 4 different ways of repeating the command, 3 of which repeat only the last command, while one of this allows me to look through the history of my commands without having to enlarge the command line and start looking through the history of my commands. Now, we're going to discuss repeating the last command only first. So I can either right click. So if I have an active command, so say this one is active, and I would like to repeat it. Now, I don't have any active commands right now, and I've closed that command. All I have to do is right click anywhere, and you can see that this command, the last command, was started again. So it's asking me to start a polyline. So now I can start drawing my polyline. Once I'm done, I will just hit the space button. The next way of repeating the last command only is, again, I don't have any active command right now, and I want to start the command that I started last time. All I have to do is press on the spacebar button on my keyboard, and start polyline command has started again. Obviously, this was my last command, and therefore it has started. Now, a third way, sorry, of restarting the last command is by hitting the enter button instead of the space button on my keyboard. And again, start polyline command has started. Now, there is a way of going through the history, as we mentioned before, up to 15 commands. I can go to my command line. Once I right click, you can see a list of 4 or 5 commands that I have used in my document. Now, obviously, I've only used these commands in the document, and that's why I only have 5. Now, this list can go up to 15 commands, so it can save up to the last 15 commands that I have activated in my document. And mind you, if I repeated the polyline once, so right now we've repeated the polyline 3 times. However, it only appears once in the list. So those are the last different 15 commands that I have used in my document. The next question is, okay, I know how to start a command. I don't know how to zoom in or out, pan or rotate. Now, zooming in and out is rather simple. I have 2 ways of zooming in and out. I can either scroll up on my mouse or scroll up for zooming in or scroll down for zooming out. Alternatively, I can use my right-click button along with my control button on my mouse, on my keyboard. So I'm going to click on the control button and I'm going to use I'm still clicking on the control button, and simultaneously I'm going to use my right-click button on the mouse. And once I start moving my cursor up or my mouse up, I start zooming in. And if I move it down, I zoom out. Mind you, I'm still pressing on the control button and on the right click button. So I'm dragging my mouse up and down to zoom in and out. And this works with any of the views that I have. Now, this is for zooming in and out. Panning is a little bit more complex. Now, panning depends on what view I am at. So if I'm at a 3D view, I'm going to use my shift button and my right-click mouse on my mouse to pan through my drawing. So I'm still pressing on my shift button and I am still pressing on my right-click button on my mouse and dragging my cursor around. Now, for the 2D views, I can remove my finger off the shift button and simply use my right-click button on my mouse to pan through the views. Now, if I only use my right-click button on the perspective or on the 3D view, you can see that I am now rotating. So because I don't need to rotate on the other 2D drawings, because that will defeat the purpose of having a 2D drawing, it's easier to use the right-click button on the 3D perspective view instead of having it in a different button. So again, just to recap quickly, if I wanted to zoom in and out, I can scroll up and down on my mouse. Alternatively, I can use the control and right-click button on my mouse to zoom in and out. To rotate, I simply right-click on a 3D view and start rotating. If to pan, on the 3D view, I have to add the shift button along with my right-click button on my view and start dragging my cursor around. On the 2D views, all I have to do is simply use my right-click button on the mouse. I hope this is clear and relatively simple. I think it will become easier with experience, and once you start experiencing zooming, panning, and rotating on Rhino. This is technically the basic introduction to Rhino. In the next tutorial, we're gonna introduce drawing shapes on Rhino and how we start working with shapes. Thank you.